What's up, Atlanta Fringe? I'm Eli. I'm here at Do You Validate Studios. Today we're talking to Bobby Wesley and his show Liquid Courage.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about what they can expect when they sit down for Liquid Courage?
Okay, Liquid Courage is at its heart a storytelling show.
Yeah.
Storytelling is my bread and butter. It's all about connection. It's about sharing a story. Everywhere, anytime I get to take the stage, it doesn't matter who's in the crowd. You find little bits of the story that resonates with people. So that's one of the best things about it. So it is a storytelling show. It's about growing up. The back of the card says I'm from Orlando, but truth be told, I grew up in North Georgia. So this is something of a homecoming for me. So I'm really glad to be a part of the Atlanta Fringe. But
that's nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I obviously the stories are about growing up here, and that sort of identity that forms, kind of getting to know yourself, your family, understanding those parts of yourself. So those stories are definitely the through line. But as a storyteller, I'm really fascinated by how memory works, because we don't often think about like the story you've heard your whole life. Is it in fact true? You know what I mean? There's a lot of conflict. The way your brain works is very complicated when it comes to recall. So there's some like a little TED Talk light bit on that. And I love to spin a good yarn, but I also love to tell a joke. So there's some riffs, there's some rants, there's some sidebars on there that kind of commentating on the whole thing. So it's a really good time. I got to debut it at the Orlando Fringe Festival last year. Yeah. Had a great time, and I've taken parts of it all over. So I'm really, really glad to be able to bring it back here. That's awesome. where the story started. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the memory aspect. My recall is bad, so
all of it, man. Yeah, it's really hard to retrace those pathways. So
yeah, I mean, people will tell me a story that happened in my life, and I just have to assume that they're right because I don't know.
It's tricky. Yeah, I mean, we all like to think that our memories are our own and they're accurate, but at the same time, half of us can't remember a person's name that we met 5 minutes ago. So there's obviously something there. So
yeah. So Phil, how about the title Liquid Courage? Can you talk a little about where that came from, or is that something that the show reveals?
It's certainly a part of it. I mean, I come from a storytelling household, but part of telling a good story, if you've ever been to a bar on a Friday night, a good story is often informed by a couple of good drinks. Yeah. And so that is definitely part of it. My dad loved a martini when he came home at the end of the day. My grandfather made a really hatchet job Manhattan as we were telling stories around their house growing up. So certainly, like, there is bits of that, and like in the last 15 years or so, cocktail culture has become a part of. There's a hipsterism to it, but there's also just a nerd culture to it too. Like you can really drill down and get granular. And I've been known to plan a little bit of my vacations around some of the top cocktail bars that have emerged. So it's certainly a part of the culture that I've enjoyed too. It's a great part of storytelling. So Liquid Courage is there's a little theme of alcohol that does pop up through some of these storytelling pieces as well.
What's one of your favorite drinks?
Oh, I mean, purely classic Manhattan. It's hard to go wrong. I mean, whiskey, good vermouth, and you can tweak it so much with bitters. Bitters is like the salt and pepper of cocktails. You can really tweak it a little bit. But there's so many beautiful. I mean, a Jungle Bird is a great tiki-inspired thing. And again, I've gone in. As I've traveled around the country or around the world, like I really have tried to locate, like the best bars in the world list, or this, so it's a fun place to go, and I love to just sit at the bar and kind of talk shop if the bartender is not, in the weeds, you know what I mean? If we can talk shop and hang out, I love to see the process.
Okay. Now, are you strictly someone who appreciates it, or can you mix a good cocktail yourself?
Oh my God, I'm a home bartender nerd. Yeah, I make my own bitters. My coffee number 2 is excellent. During the pandemic, I made Manhattan barrel-aged bitters that took me the better part of the year to get right, but my God, those things are good. Yeah. So it's I've again, there's also a thread of me nerding out about certain things, and so once I set my focus on something, I really like to do it right.
So I can imagine after we see your show, we can find you at the Fringe Hive Hotspots to share a drink and talk?
Absolutely, yeah. We can chat afterwards for sure. If there's anything on the menu that you don't understand, I can walk you through all the weird esoteric bits for sure.
Okay. Maybe give us some suggestions on what to order.
Suggestions on what to order, or one of the things I love the most about doing shows and doing storytelling is, regardless of where you're coming from, age, background, region, parts of stories will bring up stories of your own. That's kind of how I got into storytelling myself. I went to a Fringe festival and saw a brilliant Canadian storyteller named TJ Daw. He's a Fringe legend. And it really cracked my brain open. It took me from comedy into storytelling arcs. And so I find like every time I do a show, there's someone in the audience, whether they're performers themselves or just folks that just like to, share stories. It's great to connect afterwards and share things. So that's one of my favorite parts. So absolutely, any of the hotspots, I'll probably be leaning up against the bar ready to chat.
Yeah, awesome. What do you love about the festival circuit, this idea of touring your show?
There's just so much creativity around. You just get to meet people that, like, you just create fast friends, not only with performers, but also people that love to come to festivals, love to sit in quiet, dark, black boxes and see something like either innovative or weird or inspiring. So there's no time that I've ever gone to a festival that I don't come out of it I have new ideas for a new show or a new story. There's performers that do something very different than what I do that open my brain about like a new way of doing physicality on stage or a new, structure to a story, or just, again, it just reminds you of something that you've thought of, you haven't thought of in years, or inspires you to think about the world a different way. So it's just an incredible amount of talent that we're surrounded by every day. And festivals, especially like Fringe, but so many others, like really give an opportunity to showcase those folks.
So you'd say you're as much a audience participant as you are a performer.
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
festivals.
Yeah. I mean, I got my start just as a patron, and I would go to as soon as I found Fringe festivals, I started going to 10 shows, 20 shows, and even last year when I debuted my show at Orlando Fringe, I tallied it up at the end. I still saw 40 shows last year at Orlando, in addition to doing 7 of my own. So I was like, all right, I mostly stayed inside pretty much for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just it's hard not to. You know what I mean? You've got so many opportunities, and with a limited window, you just kind of want to absorb as much of it as possible. So even before I was performing myself, this was an absolute spark and just really opened my brain.
So coming back sort of home to Georgia, how's Atlanta been for you? What have you experienced so far?
Well, I slid into town for the fundraiser, the 5/5 show.
Yeah.
I decided to come up at last minute because, and I mean this in the best possible way, I love a fun, dumb thing.
Yeah.
I love something that's joyful, and like we're doing it for the sake of it. Like I also love the home run derby. I don't discriminate, man. You know what I mean? Like if it's fun and it's there for the sake of being there, I'm on board to see what it's going to be. So I drove up for that last minute, slid into town. And just walking up to 7 stages, I'm like, this is amazing. What's happening here? Where are we? Because again, I'm from Georgia, but it's been a while since I've been back. I've been in Orlando for a long time now. So every time I come back, I find something new. And even places I'm like, I want to go back to, this place I loved for breakfast, or this great coffee place, or a cool bar that I hung out. There's just so much cool stuff. So in some ways, it's like it's overwhelming in the best ways. Like, and it's nice too coming back. Like the trees smell like home. There's you forget those sensory elements that you kind of take for granted when you live in a place. So even just walking from my Airbnb to come over here this afternoon, it was it brought up a lot of memories, which was really really fun experience. So I'm glad to get to see a few friends while I'm up here. And I'm sure I've already had recommendations for restaurants and such. So by the end of the week, I want to get some biscuits, I want to get some barbecue. I want to do it the right way. So I'm excited.
Nice.
It's great being home.
Oh, good. I think you touched on this a little bit already, but in the process of developing the show and performing the show, what have you learned? How has it grown?
Some of these core stories started as just things that kind of kept bubbling up. I feel like as a storyteller, but even just in our lives, there's those little touchstone moments, these little flashbulbs that you think, why do I keep thinking about this experience? This moment comes up in my mind when I'm just driving down the road or whatever. And so I wanted to take a moment to kind of investigate those. And as I scripted them out and started thinking like, how could I share this story from the stage? I started noticing kind of some familiar themes that were coming up about trying to understand myself, trying to understand my father, trying to just get a better sense of how my community informed me, or how some of those funny, weird experiences, from everything from, growing up sitting around the table with my family to some petty vandalism and youthful indiscretions. Like those things are all kind of part of the package. And when you start seeing how those things connect, it informs who you are too. So as much as I love telling these stories, and some of them I've told for a variety of years, this show really does feel like who I am right now, which is a really cool thing to get to share, because I mean, who knows 5 years from now? We all grow, but right now, as I'm going through this show and I get to share these stories or make these jokes and riff on memory and riff on, growing up kind of a weird semi-Southern kid, in North Georgia, it really does feel very natural, and it feels very much like accepting kind of where I come from, the good and the bad, and your family, the good and the bad, and how it informs you and kind of how you can learn from it and move forward.
So after Atlanta Fringe, what's next for Liquid Courage?
I'm definitely want to do it again. I had a great time last year. I'm so excited to do it here. I was working on a friend's show. She's from Vancouver in Orlando this year. I'm going to go up to Winnipeg and help her on her next show. Oh, cool. And so I'll probably do try to debut it up there while I'm at it. Yeah. But yeah, like I want to keep doing the festival circuit for sure. And then just, it's fun to take chunks of it. I've done pieces at storytelling festivals, kind of at different spots. Yeah. And so, yeah, I want to keep doing it, and I want to keep growing it, and just keep writing new things, because every time I have a conversation, every time I go to shows and festivals, just more stories come to mind. And so it's really, it's great to be able to kind of capture those things, write them down, share them with people, and have them,
Awesome. Well, Bobby, tell the people where and when they can see Liquid Courage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I have 4 shows here at the Atlanta Fringe Festival. Yeah. I will be at the Metropolitan Studio. So I have my opener is Thursday night at 10 p.m. Okay. That'll be a real fun one. Mm-hmm. And then I've got 2 shows on Saturday, 2:30 and 8:30. So, and that one, 2 shows in one day. Yeah. And again, this is a real fun show. But you're gonna feel some feels, Eli. I'm just gonna let you know.
I'm ready.
We're gonna have a good time. But I'm not shying away from the truth. So 2 shows on Saturday, 2:30, 8:30, and then my Sunday show, my closer will be 2:30 in the afternoon. So
nice.
Again, all great times. It's going to be great shows. I'm going to have friends there. I'm going to have new friends that I've already met. I'm so excited to be able to share it.
That's so cool. So we get the full emotional spectrum.
Absolutely.
When we see Liquid Courage. All right, so y'all come see Liquid Courage at the Atlanta Fringe Festival at Metropolitan Studios, and then find Bobby at one of our Hive hotspots after and share a drink.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Bobby.
Sounds good.